We need to wait a bit. Meanwhile, if you have any inquiry, you can ask me regarding the ME 101, of course. Okay, it's time. So I'm going to put the record on. Record to the cloud.
Recording in progress.
Hi, everyone. My name is Munirul Nobin, and today is our first seminar class for ME 101, the economic principles, or principal economics. Now, today is an introductory class, right? Your lecture class has just started on last Monday. Before that, I should ask you one question, and I think you give me an honest answer, right? Don't feel shy. How do you feel so far? You have a lecture class on Monday, right? You have listened to that lecture notes. You are familiar with the online content so far, if I understand it correctly. And when you go through that things, what is your impression about ME 101? Can anyone be volunteer and just share your experience? That would be great. Thank you. Steffi, you want to talk about it? I think your microphone is off or is on. Oh.
On.
Oh, please go ahead.
Sorry, I've literally just joined. What did I miss?
Okay, so what I'm saying that so far you have gone through the online contents, you attended or listened to the recorded lecture class. What do you think about ME 101, the economic principle?
Any of the economic principles?
Yeah.
Yep. So I was actually really interested to learn about the hand, the invisible hand.
Okay.
That quite interesting. And then in terms of the principles, I'm actually made a note on one of them. Yeah, so like I found it really interesting, Principle 7, where like governments can sometimes improve market outcomes. I thought that was quite interesting.
That's great. So that looks like, and there's an online comments as well. Jason is saying a little bit intimidated. There's a lot of comment that is new to me. Vanessa says, I completely agree. Noah says, it has been interesting so far. Okay. Now, before we start, yes, Dione, right? Am I right?
Yeah, close.
Yes, please go ahead. Sorry about my pronunciation.
No, that's okay. It's very difficult to get it right the first time. Yeah, I'm really excited. I am surprised actually about what it looks like it's going to be about. I thought it was going to be a bit drier, a bit more mathematical, and that's not that I don't like maths. So I've previously done a science degree, and I started with literature, and I thought, oh, I want to do some business units. So I've come across to this one, and I just find it really interesting because it puts it all together and it thinks about, or we consider, how these decisions and how maths and how that affects people's lives. I think that's really interesting.
Oh, that's really interesting. Now, the first thing I need to do is I apologize for my picture because the light reflects on my head and I become very flashy. You can't see me properly, I guess. At least I cannot see my picture properly. It's the reflective lights that is coming opposite direction. Sorry, I apologize for that. Now, before we start, one thing we need to do first, we need to introduce ourselves. That's the first thing. What is that? Tell your name, what degree you are doing, right? And which trimester, whether it's a first trimester or second trimester, right? And whether you have a previous economics background, right? That does not necessarily mean that you have to go through the economic course. It must be the case that in the real world business you perform where you know some interaction of the economic variables, or it might be in the personal experience, right? So look, I'm not going a theory here. I try to make my class informal and more interactive. Because if you ask me a question, that's your first step to learn. Don't feel shy. Every question is important. And don't think, oh, whether I'm asking a very, question which might not be right. Don't think in that way. Whatever comes to your mind, ask me a question. Here, I'm not doing that formal lecture, this and that. I am not that kind of person. Make it informal, be free, and express your thoughts, and we will all share or express. So the first thing is first, we're going to introduce ourselves. As I said, your name, what course you are doing, whether it's a first trimester or second trimester, and whether you have any background of economics principle or economics, or in the business interaction, whatever you do. So I'm going to start whatever comes first. So is that Downey, right? Downey, your name comes first. So please go ahead. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Thanks. I work 4 days a week, so I'm studying part-time. I started with a Bachelor of Arts, and I've done a number of children's literature units. And I do 1 unit a trimester, so I've been going a couple of years, and I'm not really sure how much I've done really. So I could be up to like my 5th or 6th unit. And my experience in economics is probably household economics. So I've got, I'm middle-aged, so I've got a household full of teenage children. So I've been balancing the, household budget for however many years. And in the business world, I work in a library, so I've done a little bit of team leader role. And the business principles are not the same in a profitable business, I wouldn't think, because it's a government service. But yeah, I've had a little bit of exposure there. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Clara, could you please go ahead? You're next.
I will. I'll come in with both my voice and my face, I suppose. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
This is my 2nd unit in the commerce degree, and I only started it because I've been retired for quite a while, but got a bit bored. And I thought, well, I'll go back to work, or I'll go back to study. So I've come back to study. So I did finance last trimester, and I really enjoyed it. Wish I had that knowledge 40 years ago. I would have been richer and be able to retire even earlier. So economics-wise, other than being what I consider a rational person with my money and choosing, where I spend my money and where I don't spend my money and the trade-offs involved in that, I have no professional background in economics whatsoever, other than I've worked in the healthcare field forever, and economics is always a question that comes up about where money gets spent. Yeah.
That's great, Clara. You're right. As long as you are involved with the household budget, you are learning economics, right? In unconscious mind, you do all the principles that we are going to teach. And probably, and perhaps you will find that what we are doing here, you may find it is obvious, right? So that's what my feeling is, but we'll come to that after that.
For me, I was really interested in why my interest in doing this subject is why politicians make the choices they make for us on our behalf.
Okay.
That's my interest.
We'll also talk about that thing. That is a big challenge. We'll talk about that thing when we go through macroeconomics of the week 6 or after week 6. Thank you, Clara. Varun, are you there?
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so my name is Varun Tharad, and I'm studying sports management, and this is my 2nd trimester, and I don't have like a really good background in economics, but I studied micro and macroeconomics in my 11th and 12th grade.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Thank you, Varun.
No worries.
Jason, are you there, Jason? Oh, hi, Jason.
Hi, how you going?
That's all right.
So I'm Jason. I'm studying the PPE, the Bachelor of Politics, Philosophy and Economics, part-time.
That's a very, very excellent course. You might enjoy that thing. It's all 3 combination. Yeah.
It sounds exciting. There's I think about 12 of us at the moment.
Okay. It's a new course that we introduced this year.
Yeah. So no, I'm finding it good. So I've got a background in 25, 30 years of IT management, business management, and I suppose the content that I've absorbed so far is really interesting, but my challenge is going to be letting go of what I think a person would do and actually just think like a rational person would do in theory.
Mhm.
Because I'm not used to this concept of rational players in the market. Everyone that I've ever experienced is completely irrational.
That is excellent thing. In fact, the word rationality is very subjective. What you think rational, I might not think the rational the same way, and vice versa. So that's why in economics they develop a behavioral economics. Not only that, they go one step forward and they call it neuroeconomics. So what they did, they put the neuroscience, psychology, and economic rationality in one box.
Yeah.
So, and then they try to understand that our neurophysiology, how it works when it makes a decision in one hand, what happens to the psychological reaction? On the other hand, what does the rationality says? And surprisingly, you will see they come up with exactly the same conclusion that you just tell us, right? And this is exactly what happens. I have one paper published in Neuroeconomics, so I'm telling you that thing that you are speaking the truth, and that is exactly what we are thinking now. And recently there was a Nobel Prize winner who actually got Nobel Prize in neuroeconomics and behavioral economics. And if you go to the online content, one of these interview, I put it there.
Very good.
Right? So you'll find there. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Vavin Trivedi. Are you there, Vavin? Yeah, fine. Thank you. Please go ahead. Okay. Thank you very much, Vavani. This is very straightforward. Thank you very much. Nua Abdul Rahman, right? Nua Abdul Rahman, am I right?
Yes, correct. Hello.
Please go ahead.
I'm studying a Bachelor in Business, and this is my first trimester. I'm working also full-time, 5 days a week. So good luck with that. But so far I've been trying to find that healthy balance. How can I also catch up with reading the unit? I'm super excited, actually. I have a prior work experience in government projects, so that's what mainly drove me to get a degree as a second degree.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
That is excellent. Thank you, Nua. Bertrand, are you there?
Hi, yeah. My name is Bertrand Desperon. I'm doing a Bachelor of Business, majoring in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. This is my second year, and the only economics experience I have is back in A-levels. I took a unit, but that's about it.
Thank you, Bertrand. That's excellent. Vanessa, is you. Could you please introduce yourself? It's your turn now. Thank you. Vanessa, are you there? We can't hear you properly. Anyone can hear Vanessa? Okay. So Vanessa, I think, oh, here it is. Who's that? No. Still, we are losing Vanessa. Vanessa, your microphone maybe not working properly. So could you please check while I'm visiting the others as well? Next is Steph. Steph, could you please introduce yourself? Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I've got a little bit of audio feedback, so I'm not sure if that's on your end or my headphones. I'm Steph. I am in my third trimester. I'm doing a business degree. What's led me to start a degree, I didn't really have an opportunity to do a degree when I was younger, and I've got some sponsorship from my current employer, so that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Steph. That's great. Tom Mackenzie, could you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Currently doing a Bachelor of Commerce with a major in management. I'm working 5 days a week, mostly in a contract management role for a utility. but I've got previous experience managing budgets for a group I used to work for, and I'm studying part-time. This is my third trimester.
That's great.
That's
great.
Yeah, and the driver for this is just to progress a bit further in the workplace into management.
Oh, that's excellent. Songi, is that Songi Lee, right? Songi Lee, are you there? Could you please introduce yourself? Songi Liu. Can you hear me, Songi Liu? Okay, Vanessa, your microphone is fixed. If it is, could you please introduce yourself?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't usually use Zoom on my computer. So my name's Vanessa. I'm studying a Bachelor of Business in the first trimester. I've had very little experience to economics prior to now, and working full time. So just trying to find that balance between study and work.
That's great, Vanessa. It's a very short, and I like it. Very short, but very precise. Okay, thank you. Who's next? Jack Brown. Are you there, Jack?
Hello, yes. Sorry, I was just eating a little bit, so sorry, my bad.
Oh, no, it's all right. Have you finished or?
Yes, I can go. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm studying the Bachelor of Business and Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science. This is my second trimester at Deakin, but I've done one trimester prior with just the Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science.
That's
so
great.
yeah, no previous experience in business at Deakin. So yeah, and I'm just working like part-time. So yeah, just trying to do both. Yeah.
Okay. That's excellent. Thank you, Jack. Songi Liu, are you there now? Songi, Songyu Liu. There's no sound there, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Songi Liu, if you can hear me, could you please introduce yourself? Okay. Probably there is a problem with your microphone. Could you please adjust as well? Meanwhile, we need to move forward. Songi Liu, if you fix up your problem, just pop in and introduce yourself. At any time, stop me and do that, okay? Now, what we have learned here today, that more or less we all working full-time. That's the first information, right? So this is good. You are not just only one person who's working full-time. Your classmates are also in the same boat. Obviously, we feel much better now, right? Then we also learn that the backgrounds that you have, very few have economics course. So pretty much you come from the diverse background, which is also very good, right? So that will put in you a good, it will give you confidence because your classmates are exactly the same like you are, right? Some comes from the commerce management, some comes from the IT background, some comes from the Bachelor of Business background, some come from the arts background, and so on, which is really good. Now, the third thing that I should mention is that because we do the full-time work and we have a household activities, it is good in a sense that whatever I'm going to teach you about economics, you will find that whenever you make a household decision making, it is there. So in that sense, you'll find that I'm not saying something new here. Maybe I'm using economics jargon here and that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it down to such a level that you can understand with a real world example. Immediately you'll pick up what is going on here, right? And after that, I'm going to introduce those economic jargon, right? So rather than introduce the economic jargon first, I would probably put a real world example first, try to analyze that, and then from there we will develop the observation, and you'll find that some of this observation is already predicted by the economic theories. And that's the beauty of it, right? So that's the first thing. Now, I haven't introduced myself yet. So it's now my turn to introduce myself. So my name is Munirul Nobin. It is quite a big name. And if you call me with the first name, probably I will not respond because nobody in my family members call me Munirul, right? So this is a big story. I'm not going to tell that. It's a clash between my grandfather and my own dad. So my grandfather gives me Munirul. He didn't like it, but he doesn't want to change the family tradition that the grandfather will name the grandsons. So instead, he came up with his own name, and that would be Nobin. Somehow, my grandfather also accepted that, so everyone called me Nobin, right? So Munirul, if you call me, I will probably say, whom you're calling? I never heard this name before. Okay, now I will make it much easier. I'm going to use the whiteboard just to tell you about more important things. So let me create the whiteboard here. Can anyone see my whiteboard?
See.
Oh, it's coming. Can you see?
It's blank with dots. Is that what it looks like?
Yeah, can you see? I'm going to write a star, and then you'll see whether you can see it or not. Can you see my star?
Yep.
Okay. So here is my name. So if you put it this way, this is Munirul. Obviously, this is L. And this is Nobin. So if you call this name, probably you'll see I'm not responding and I'm thinking someone else. So call me on my last name. Now the question is, how do I remember and how do I pronounce it correctly? So here it is. You can pronounce it No-bin. You know, in the room, there's no paper bean. There's no bean in this room, right? That's how you need to pronounce No-bin, right? I think after that, you will never forget about it, right? But when you're going to write it, instead of this O, you need to write it an A-B-I-N. But it pronounced exactly Nobin. Now, that's a Sanskrit word. It is also a Bengali word. It also means new, right? So that's what it means. Okay, I've been studying economics since 1992, right? When I admitted in the university. My background is I did my major in economics. My other subject is mathematics and statistics. So I'm also trained mathematician. However, in 101, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to use a mathematics. Obviously, I'm going to use a mathematics, but this is the maths I'm going to use. If you are okay with this maths, probably you are okay with the rest of this course. So the one you need to answer, so what is that? 2 plus 2, what will you get here, right? If you know that answer, then 2 minus 2, what you will get here. The number 3 is 2 divided by 2, and number 4 is 2 multiplied by 2. If you know all those answers, 2 plus 2, that's 4, 2 minus 2 is 0, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. If you are okay with this, sometimes we call it algebraic manipulation, right? And we learn these things in our primary school maths. And if you remember this skill for this course, it is more than enough. After that, I'm not going to use, at least in my class, I'm not going to use any maths, right? Apart from this. However, since I'm making a huge concession, you will see I'm going to use a lot of graph. Because sometimes visualization gives you better understanding rather than putting all the equations, right? I'm going to use a lot of graphs, and I will also explain in a moment what these graphs are standing for. Clear? So that's what I'm trying to do. Now, I'm going to share one more thing, which is today's thing. So let me stop the whiteboard. So the summary of this thing is, my name is Nobin, and as long as you are okay with the primary school maths, multiplication, addition, subtraction, and division, you'll be more than okay for this course. Now I'm going to talk about the seminars. So let's go to our seminar problem. So just bear with me what happens. There's 2 windows I'm using, sometimes here, sometimes here. So I'm not sure which window I'm sharing. The computers these days are doing very weird thing. So let me check. This is Dexter 2. Okay. Can you see my screen? Everyone? Okay, thank you very much. So task 1, introduce yourself to the group. We already did. We already know who we are and what background we are coming from. Task 1B, discuss whether you have any previous knowledge of economics. We already did that. Now, C, what do you think economics is all about? That's the question we are coming. Any idea what is the economics is all about? Anyone? Just share your ideas. Look, I'm happy. Yes, Downey, please go ahead.
Sorry, do you want us to just turn our microphones on and talk, or do you want us to raise our hands? What suits you?
So our problem is, this is a very good point, actually. Remember, this whole session is recording. So to minimize the noise, when you speak, you raise the hand, and then when you speak, you turn on your microphone, you put your question, discuss, and then you turn it off. Otherwise, what will happen in the background, there will be a lot of echoes which are coming, right? So that's the thing. Please, Dana, go ahead.
So what do I think economics is about? About how people make decisions.
Oh, that's great.
About their money and their time, really, but yeah, how they make decisions.
That is excellent choice. And that's a very good thinking. Economics is about decision. In fact, if you go to the online contents or our lecture slides, you'll see we also says in this way, but in a different way, we says that it is a science of choice. Now, why is the science of choice? Part of the reasons is because we have limited resources. Whether you consider time, we have a limited time, we have 24 hours, but we have to do a lot of works, right? If you talk about your budget or your income, again, we have a limited income, but we have unlimited ones. And when we have that problem, we also name it a scarcity problem, right? Because unlimited wants and limited resources. When you have a scarcity problem, there will be a trade-off. What does that mean? You can't have everything. Say, for example, you are attending this lecture class. What does that mean? It implies that you are giving up something else. You can go with your friend and to pub, enjoy yourself, or go and watch a movie, or go to sleep, right? But instead, you are attending the class. So you cannot have everything, right? You make a choice, right? Now, the scarcity pushes us to make a choice. And that's why in economics, we call it is a science of choice. It is not just a choice. It also helps us to make an efficient choice. Part of the reasons is because our resources are limited. And we have to utilize these resources to make our choice. Now, whatever choice we make sure that choice is efficient, right? Later on, we will also describe what does that efficiency means. In a layman term, we want to make sure there's no wastage of resources when we make our choice, right? Because I don't want to waste any of my money when I make a choice. And in that sense, it is efficient. So we'll explain that thing in more details. So you're right. It is a science of choice. Now, think about this way. For some reasons, I'm now asking a very hypothetical question. Please don't take it otherwise. Think about this way. For some reasons, I ended up with heaven. Of course, nobody wants to go to hell, right? I end up with heaven. And I'm looking for a job. My job is economist, of course. Do you think I get a job there as an economist? Why not? Or do you think I will make a decision like I do in this world, in heaven? Or is there any job for economics in heaven? Yes, Downey, please go ahead.
I'm thinking the idea of heaven is you can have whatever you want and however much you want of it.
That is correct. Yes. Who raised the hand? Please go ahead. Yeah, Jason, please.
Yeah, I would be hoping that there isn't production constraints.
Exactly. So by definition, heaven means there's no scarcity problem. Everything will be plenty, and all you need to do, you just make a wish. If that is the case, then the science of choice will not work there because we don't have a scarcity problem. There is no trade-off, right? By definition. again, is a hypothetical question. So you can imagine that all economists become unemployed. Heaven, that's for sure, right? Because we don't need it. That's a hilarious thing, but this is what it comes back, right? Now, apart from that, what else economists do? Okay, we understand we are talking about the choice making, right? Now, this choice could be a micro aspect, which is could be a macro level. For example, yesterday, RBA increased the interest rate, right? So they have a choice, but they now push up the interest rate. Why? Do they do the right thing? Did they do the right thing? Or did they do the wrong thing? What's going on there? Or is that choice they make or is efficient, right? And how does that affect us? Does it mean our welfare goes up or our welfare goes down? Now, more importantly, what happens in the long run? That means in the short term, how will be our status? And also in the long term, what will happen to us, right? So these are all things you need to consider, and that is all about the economics, right? So whenever someone talks about economics, always remember, well, of course, there's a micro level. In the micro level, we talk about how the market operates, if the government imposes tax, what will happen to that particular goods, so on and so on. For example, people are talking about the tax on alcohol products, tax on tobacco products, how this micro management policy, that means taxation policy for a particular product will affect, that will be the micro. And whenever you talk about the policy, you are thinking whether this is an efficient choice, whether it will increase the welfare, what will happen to the short run, what will happen to the long run, and how does that affect our living standard at the end? Because there's no point of studying economics if it will not increase our welfare, right? Or our well-being. So at the end of the day, the main objective of the economics, you make a choice in such a way that it will increase our well-being or our welfare, right? That's why it is very important. Now that we talk about the micro, we talk about the macro. So does it make clear to everyone what is all the economics is all about? Now I'm going to introduce a little bit more. It's not just micro and macro. There's a lot of sociological issue which is also analyzed by economists. One of the great example is the Nobel Prize winner. His name is Gary Becker. In 1980s, he came up with a brilliant idea, and he's telling us, look, you talk about the marriage, you talk about the dating game, these are also the part of the market. And he explained the market in such a way that it can explain the marriage, the dating game, matching, and you name it. Later on, he got the Nobel Prize. Now, what happens here, when he brings the market concept to analyze the marriage, dating game, and so on, it changes our views. And after that, the custody law and everything has changed. Why? Because when it comes to the marriage market, you need to think about who has the bargaining power in that market. Is that husband or is it wife? More importantly, you also need to think about the women empowerment after and before marriage, right? You also need to think about the joint production. You also need to think about the comparative advantage in a sense that who has a comparative advantage in the household works and who has a comparative advantage in other works, right? And everything will come to this marriage market, and you have to figure it out what will be the best choice after that. So when he brings these things explicitly, it changes our views and it changes the custody law and everything, right? So clearly he got the Nobel Prize for that. So now I'm going way beyond market, right? I'm just telling you that even as sociological issues can be explained with the market. The main part of the market is all about the exchange. Exchange not necessarily takes place through the money and this and that. It can be also a love. For example, when you talk about the marriage market, we are talking about that soulmate, right? Which is a very scarce, right, in this world. If you talk about the spiritual love or pure love, whatever it is, right? So again, this is explained by Gary Becker, right? And that makes more sense because he's talking about the scarcity here, and he brings that market concept to analyze the sociological issue. Nowadays, you also find that people are using the economics to analyze the law, in particular the criminal laws. They're also using economics to explain the crime, this and that, right? So this is quite a big. So all I'm saying, just don't think that economics is just for macro and micro level. Think bigger picture. Whenever you make a decision, whatever that decision is, whether it's the market, your life decision, whether you're going for dating game or not, or you want to do a certain work or not, something like that, you can take the lessons that you learn from economics and you can apply to it, right? And see what happens. So this is all about economics. Is that clear to everyone? So we finished task 1. Now the second part is make sure you are aware of the key expectations. Now this part, I really need to go through that thing. Before that, there's one question and I'm going to answer that thing in the chat box. It says, who put, okay, Donnie says, it means I cannot cook dinner. Okay, that actually depends, right? Say, for example, in my case, we figured out that my wife has a comparative advantage in cooking, and I have a comparative advantage doing a kitchen hand job, right? And we specialize in that way. So all the washing, dishes, and all those things is my part. All the cooking is my wife's part. And that's the comparative advantage theory. The idea is you figure it out which you are good at. And once you specialize on that thing, that's not the end. Economics also tells you make sure the exchange takes place. So of course, the benefit that we produce, we need to share both of us the same benefit. Then obviously it will be good because once is cooking and she doesn't need to bother about washing this and that because she knows that other person is good at it and he will do it. And I don't need to bother about the cooking. And the benefit we are getting, beautiful dishes, we enjoy our dinner and lunch, right? No problem. Now, this is called a comparative advantage theory. And later on, you will see that we are using that thing in the international trade. Why China is, what China is good at? China is good at labor-intensive goods. That means the goods which are produced by the labor-intensive technology, right? And Australia is good at mining products. So if they specialize, Australia is going to specialize in the mining product, China is going to specialize in the goods which is produced by labor-intensive, right, technology. And if they exchange, then you'll find that both of them are beneficial. So this is why the trade starts. And this is the same concept we are applying for the household. Again, it is not my credit about that household comparative advantage. Gary Becker already did that, right? So, and he explained how these things work. And that's why he got the Nobel Prize. Now, you know that our Prime Minister is visiting China, right? So we are trying to remember the world is very volatile at the moment in a sense that we have a Russian-Ukraine conflict, we have a Middle East conflict. How this will affect us? Well, this will push up the energy price. And when the energy price goes up, it eventually brings the inflation. Now, if you look at whether we consider US, Europe, or Australia, every country is facing the energy price hike and the inflation as a result. For example, yesterday when I bought a petrol, I was thinking the unleaded petrol, which was $0.90 or 95, and this morning it's the same 91 unleaded petrol is $2.20, right? So you can see all those conflicts that's going on eventually impact the energy price, and that costs us a lot because inflation goes up. Now, this is not just the end of this story. Now you will have it's called a chain reaction. Because the inflation goes up, RBI has no choice. It has to control the inflation, so it has to increase the interest rate. Now we have a double-edged sword. One hand, inflation goes up, but our income doesn't go up. So what it means, our purchasing power drops, right? We can't have all the goods at the moment. The grocery that I used to do cost me $120. Now the same grocery cost me $230, right? So I have to cut back my budget because my income doesn't go up in that way. So all moms and dads will probably understand what I'm talking about right now. At the same time, now the interest rate goes up, which means our mortgage payment also goes up. Now we have a double-edged sword. One hand, the grocery bill goes up. Another hand, the mortgage payment goes up. How does that affect us? Our cost of living actually goes up. and that will affect our living standard heavily. So if you look at right after increase in the interest rate, our treasurer actually makes the announcement there will be some packages coming to relieve the burden of the cost of living. Have you heard that news in Channel 9? That's the news I have heard they're talking about. They're talking about this policy, right? So you can see the big point here that everything is related to everything, right? It is not just the inflation. To check that inflation, we have interest rate hikes. Once you have an interest rate hike, now you have a double-edged sword, right? Your cost of living standard goes up. Cost of living actually goes up, which means living standard goes down, right? Because you cannot afford everything that you used to have. So this creates a lot of problems. Clear? So this is how it is related. So we will talk about everything, micro and macro aspect of this in this course. Okay? So everyone is okay with that? Okay. Now I'm going to show you the course expectations. So I'm going to open up these things because this is very important thing. So make sure that you can see, not this one. I was actually listening to that. I will come back to that one anyway. Where is that thing? Okay. One of the important things that you need to do first before you start the course. Can you see my page? This is the unit. Yeah, thank you, Dana. Thank you, Jason. This is our unit course page, and you need to understand these things very well, right? This is the first thing. Even though I know today I'm spending a little bit more time, but it is worth it to do it because you have to understand what is what and what is for these things. So the first thing is, if you want to do well in this course, remember this course is a bit challenging. Part of the reasons is there's a lot of contents we need to cover, right? Now, initially, it was not that much. It was only for microeconomics. But then what happens, our accreditation bodies, right? Now, remember, once you graduate from this course, you need to make sure that the market acknowledge it. In particular, the acknowledged body from the accounting, acknowledged body and CPA, they says, no, you don't need just have a micro, you need to have a micro and macro both. And if you have that, then we can give you the accreditation of this course, right? So since our accreditation bodies and the market demands it, we have no choice because at the end of the day, once you graduate, you have to go to the job market, right? Apply for a good job or your dream job, whatever it is. Now your degree should be recognized, right? And these are the accreditation body who actually recognize that degree. So as a result, we end up with not only just micro topics, the first 5 weeks, the second 5 weeks, that means last 5 weeks would be also macro topics. So I understand it is overwhelming because the contents are very rich. We have to learn micro and macro both. So in that sense, it is a bit challenging, right? Having said that, when I realized that what we are going to have, I designed the online contents, and Aaron, another colleague of mine, he designed the Mindtap graded quiz and the seminar problems and the lecture slides. So the online contents, when you go through that thing, you find that Seinfeld sitcom, this and that, it will be more fun, right? But it talks about the economic concept. So you will find not boring that much, right? So that's my first thing, because my principle is learn with fun, right? Not with the boring stuff. It will not go anywhere. Now, having said that, you make sure that you allocate it 4 to 5 hours or 5 to 6 hours weekly for this course, right? That's the first thing, because it's very challenging because you have to learn a lot of concepts. So 5 to 6 hours allocate for this course, that will be more than enough. Second thing is, I would probably say, go to the getting ready. You can see the getting ready on the online content. In the getting ready, if you click, you'll find the unit guide, which is most important thing, and welcome ME 101. Make sure, please go through the welcome message that your unit chair posted, because what it will do, it will talk about the assignment, it will talk about the concept that we're going to cover. Not only that, also check the announcement, because very often he's going to put what we are going to cover, what is coming next, and so on, right? So the welcome message must do it. Then the unit guide. So when you click the unit guide, right, this page will come up, unit guide. Now in this page, the unit guide, the most important page is this one. This is the last page, which says unit weekly activities, right? So this is the most important thing because it tells us the due dates of your assignment, right? And you have two assignments. One is called Mindtap graded quiz. One is called written assessment. It tells us exactly which due date are there. For example, the Mindtap graded quiz is the first Mindtap graded quiz. It starts on week 3 and is due date on Sunday, 26th of November, right? The second Mindtap quiz is Sunday, 3rd of December. Not only that, it also tells you which chapter they're going to cover, chapter 4 and 5, right? So these are the very important information. Now, before that, you also need to do what kind of assessment you are going to have. Now, if you look at carefully, first assignment is called assessment. It's called individual assignment. That's a written assignment. It is worth of 30%, right? And then it's called, this is called the assessment task 2, but it's called the online quizzes. It is also known as a Mindtap graded quiz, and it is worth of 20%. There will be 6 Mindtap graded quizzes. Each of them has got a deadline of it. It starts from week 3 onwards till week 11. Make sure you go through the unit guideline because it is worth of 20%. So my experience tells me I was a unit chair in trimester 1, and in the trimester 1, the fail rate is around 17%, right? And those who failed, I found them, they did not do the Mindtap graded quiz. And look at this, there's a 20% mark allocated for that. So in 100, 20 mark is there. And if you get 20 and then written assignment is 30, right? And the final exam will be 50, pass mark will never be a problem. So that's why I'm saying, make sure you go through this Mindtap graded quiz. Do not miss that, okay? Now, and after that, you have a final exam question, 50%. And all the Mindtap graded quiz, what chapters it will consider and when is the due date, all are given in this unit guide, okay? So that is there. Yes, Vavin, you can ask me, what is your question? Thank you. It is kind of multiple choice question, but it is more interactive question. I will come back to that to you, show you in a moment, okay? So this is what you need to understand. Then I'm going to show you this content. Once you got the unit guide and welcome ME1 and unit guide, make sure you also go through the building block for understanding the economic theories. Now, we use a lot of technical jargons there, right? But mainly, we talk about the slope and we talk about the marginal analysis, right? And that's the tangent. Again, we talk about the slope. And if you're okay with this concept, at least in this page, I think you will be more than okay. We are not going to use anything new after that, right? So all those building blocks with the video, probably you'll see I'm talking here, this and that, and it is clearly explained. So how we measure the slope and what is the marginal concept means and what is the shape like that. Not only that, there is some quiz type of question. It is by check yourself, your understanding, that will help. And once you finish this page, it is also there. I put the MS Word, how you draw a diagram with the MS Word is a step-by-step guide, right? Now you'll find this will help you. The concept will help you for rest of the 11 weeks. You have no problem because we are not going to use more than that, right? And this MS Word, how to draw a diagram, will help you for your assignment, right? So clearly it is there. You don't need to do anything else after that. Now the question is Mindtap, what you need to do in the Mindtap. So in this case, you just go through your Mindtap resources. It is very important you go to the Mindtap resources, click there, and then you find the Mindtap dates topic T3 2023. Now remember in the unit guideline, in the last page, we tells you what is the deadline, right? we also posted here. If you click here, look at this, it's coming. So here it says in the topic what we are covering, and each topic which chapter belongs. Then it is the problem set for the mind tab, right? And that mind tab problem set what chapters belongs to those mind tab and what is the due date of the mind tab. So we posted again, not only the unit guide, but also in the mind tab resources, the same thing, so that you don't miss, right? So that's the one thing. The second thing is in the mind tab resources, you also need to go through a visual guide. So what is a visual guide? Generally, this is what the mind tab looks like. Suppose you go through these things and you'll find that specialization and production possibilities. You click there, and then there will be a set of questions like 20 or 25 questions, and you just answer them. Now, how many times you have to answer? You have 3 attempts. If in the first attempt you got the full marks, you don't need to do second or third attempts, right? But suppose you don't do very well in the first attempt, then you can go for second attempt, and then you realize, no, I can do better than that, then you can do the third attempt. But these are the attempts that we keep it open, right? So once you finish all the attempts or you are satisfied with your result, then what you need to do, you have to click these things. I am done, grade assignment now. Now, here's the important thing. Suppose you want to, you did attempt 1 and you want to go for attempt 2. In that case, you don't click this one. You just click save and continue. And you go back to that question and click it again. You'll find a different set of questions, right? So the beauty of the mind tab is once you made a mistake, it can also explain what mistakes you made. And then if you want to do it again, it randomly choose same concept with a different question, right? So that you can do it again. Now, here it says to start your second attempt, go back to the beginning and click on the question 1, right? But you do not do this. You do not push, I'm done, grade the assignment now. Once you push that, it will give you this kind of answer. Are you sure you want to grade this assignment now? And once you said yes, grade assignment, there's no way back. It'll be graded your assignment, end of this story. Does it make sense? So this is the visual guide, which is very important. Now I'm going to give you, I'm not just put a visual guide. I was not very happy with that because I thought that it is better before week 3, my students should also play around it and learn how to do it. To do that, you just click how to do Apply assignments. This is your practice. You can do it today, right? If you like, or in the weekend. So if you click that, look at this, what is coming. I'm really sorry. I have to go through this step by step so that you know exactly what we are into, right? Generally, the lecturer doesn't do that. And seminar, we don't do that. We just solve the problem. But I thought it is better because we come a new system, this and that. So it is always better to know what we are dealing with so that we do very well. Now, you can see that this is already there. Can you see that? This type of thing. Now you can say, asking, say the graph tools, I just click there. Then you'll find that this type of question will appear. Now you read all those informations, right? And then you answer, here's the answer, whatever that answer is, you put there. Then working with points, you put the answer here. And sometimes they will give you the interactive graph. So you have to draw the interactive graph given the information. And once you do that, you just answer true or false, right? And then don't do the grade it now, just save and continue if you go for attempt 2, right? If you don't, and you want to grade it now, you can choose the grade it now. Then it will ask you, are you sure? And then you'll do that. But these are the practice questions. So in this case, you might find that once you finish graded now, it might come again and open up everything for you, right? So it's a practice thing. But I thought this will be excellent idea. And this is why I have done that. So I probably say MindTap graded quiz. So this is why. So MindTap dates and topics T32023 is very important. Make sure that you are aware of that. Visual guide is also very important. It tells you step by step. But then if you want to, we call it learning by doing. If you learn it by doing, then go to the how to do Apply assignment. Once you do that, where you get your Mindtape graded quiz. You can see here it says Mindtape graded problem sets here. Can you see that? So if you click that, this is your graded problem set 1. And it already says your due date is 26th of November, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So you have to do it before that, right? Then here's the graded problem set 2 and see. So you don't need to go anywhere else, all are here, right? And you can also look at it where the information, what chapters it will cover, and so on, right? Now there is one problem. You can ask me, Nobin, okay, I understand you got to say the getting ready where I have to do this. Then you talk about the Mindtape graded quiz, so much information, and I'm overloaded, right? And particularly when I am working full time, I have no time what's going on here, right? I can't take it anymore. Now I'm coming back to that one and summarizing that thing for you, what I'm trying to do. But before that, there's a question. So Claire, you says, even if you get a full marks for Mindtape, if you go again, you will get different question. Does more practice? Yes, that is also the part of the hidden thing. Not the hidden, that's also the part of the task. It will be the same concept. Suppose I'm asking you calculate the market price, right? Now I give you the table and somehow you did not do very well. Then you go for attempt 2, still they will ask you what will be the market price, but now they will give you different tables, different numbers, right? The concept will be pretty much the same, but the numbers, graphs might change. That's what will happen. Clara, does it make sense to you?
Yes.
Thank you, Clara. Okay, now that I have another question. What question is that? Donnie, okay, you need to really help me. Diony, how do I pronounce your name correctly?
Yeah, it's Diony. It's like Leone with a D.
Okay, Diony. Thank you, Diony. Diony says, what if you do better on the first go than the second go? Okay, if you do in the first go, that's it. You don't need to do anything. If you get the full marks, why I'm going to do attempt 2 and attempt 3? You don't need to. Now, there's a couple of things I need to, again, share my whiteboard, right? So this time, I'm going to tell you some more information. And then we take a 2 minutes break, and then we're going to solve the assignment problems, right? I mean, seminar problems. This is the housekeeping thing. So let's go for create these things. Okay. All right. So everyone can see my whiteboard. Thank you. Now, I'm going to summarize these things, how you prepare yourself. Whatever I have told you, this is the summary. The first thing I says, welcome message, right? You have to read the welcome message. The second thing you need to do, the unit guide, read it very carefully, right? And the third thing, building block. So these are the 3 things you must do. Clear? So these are the 3 things you must do. Now, how do I prepare for the whole course? How to prepare? The first thing you need to do, go through each week's online content. Make sure you understand the online content very well. So in the week 1, you got the online content. Week 2, in the online content, you get a concept. Is a self-sufficient. You don't need a textbook for that. You just go through the online content, try to understand. There's a lot of videos there. You make it very fun. There's the Seinfeld, which talking about the economic concept. Then there will be quiz based on the Seinfeld question. But we are actually asking the economic question, right? So you will go through that thing, and that will give you a very rough idea what's going to cover in the week 1 topic, right? Once you do that, now you are ready to go for your lecture class, in particularly the lecture slide. Once you have the lecture slide,
Recording in progress.
sorry, okay. Once, Romina, could you please turn off your microphone? It would be great. Otherwise, there's a lot of echo here. Okay, thank you, Romina. So once you have the lecture slide, then you can go to your textbook and clear the concepts, the topics that are mentioned in the lecture slide, right? So your lecture slide will be your guide, in other words, right? And after that, then you attend your seminar problem, and also your MindTap graded quiz. You are ready for that now, right? And this is how you need to prepare. If you do that, that will be that will be sufficient, right? So again, read the online content. It's not much. It just tells you this and that, what they're talking about. There will be Seinfeld comedy. A lot of these students are giving me a feedback. They really love those comedies. Some of this coming from Seinfeld, Homer Simpson, Big Bang, you name it. You'll find that you are actually watching a TV, right? Is more entertaining rather than going through those boring concepts. But make sure you also answer the quiz following from this sitcom, right? Because whatever the sitcom is talking about, then they're asking a question. But if you understand these questions and answer the question correctly, you pretty much understand the concept. Once you do that, now you go for the lecture slides, what the lecture slides is all about. Use that thing guide. Make sure whatever mentioned in the lecture slides, go to your textbook, make sure your concepts are clear about that. Once you have that, you go to attend the seminar problem and the MindTap graded quiz. Now, what is this to do? MindTap graded quiz, that 20% allocated, it actually tests whether your concepts are clear or not. There will be more interactive cases here and there, but it will make sure that your concepts are clear. Seminar problems is more applied in the real world, right? More applied. Now, what will happen? Your final exam question will be very similar to your seminar problem. That's the interesting part, right? And if you do well in seminar problem and MindTap, you actually do well in the final exam and also you're in your assignment, right? Because those are coming from these concepts. Okay, the second part is how the MindTap graded quiz. Now, remember, there are 219 questions. There will be 219 points for your MindTap graded quiz. I will just put it this way, MGQ, right? 219 points, but this will be converted in the 20 marks because this is worth of 20 marks, right? Whatever you got in out of 219, that will be converted into your 20 marks. Now, in this 20 marks, you have first attempt, you have second attempt, you have third attempt, right? Now, what happens, you can have, suppose in the first attempt, you get 2, second attempt, you get 3, and the fourth attempt, you got, say, 0. Sorry, third attempt, you got 0, right? Now, generally, we take the average. So if you take all those attempts, you take the average. So what will be the average in this case? 2 plus 3 plus 0 divided by 3. Am I right? That's your average. So what will be this one then? Can anyone tell me? 5 divided by 3 is basically 1 point something, whatever it is, right? Okay. Now, we don't use the average here because we don't want to punish for this one, right? So we say you take the average, still you take the average, but we call it the Cengage or the MindTap, and it's an automated system, by the way. It is nothing to do with me. They call it no harm done. So the average means no harm done. So what does that mean? When they look at these 3 attempts, the lowest score is 0, they will take these things out. And then what you will do, you have 2 and 3. So they take the average of these things, 2, 3 divided by 2, right? So that will be 5 by 2, which basically means 2 point something. 2.5 actually. So clearly you can see that your original average is 1 point something, whatever it is, right? Someone says 6, right? 1.6, but when we take it no harm done, it is higher than that. This is how this automated system has been set. So you see, we're trying to be very lenient, and still these students don't want to do these MindTap graded quiz. And as I said, when there's a 17% fail, majority of them in the MindTap graded quiz either did not attempt the whole 6 sets, they only attempt 1 or 2 sets, and they get 2 or 1 out of 20. Right? So please don't do that. It's a very easy, it is designed in a very lenient way. It'll be good fun, and you'll find that you'll be in a very good shape, because once you get 20, generally those who attempt, majority of them get on average 17 to 18 out of 20. Right? And then you have an assignment, then you have final exam, you'll find that the final exam will be much easier, right, to pass this course. Because in this course, there's no exam hurdle. All you need to do the pass marks, which is 50 out of 100. That's it. Does it make sense to everyone? Okay. Can we take the quick break? Now is the 7:05. I'll take a quick break, say 2 minutes or 3 minutes, right? Grab your coffee, and then we'll start from there. Okay. Thank you very much. So take a quick break.
Recording stopped.
Okay. So I'm back. So everyone is back. It's a 7:08. Okay. All right. Now where I am. So I need to record it again.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Now that we finished these things, I'm going to close the whiteboard, and I'm going to bring the seminar problem, as well as I will bring the notebook, because it will be one of my students in last year actually suggested to do that, because if I share the whiteboard, what will happen, the question will not, you cannot see the question, right? So he came up with an idea how to do that, and he says that I should use it's called a OneNote, so you can see all those things side by side. So just give me one time. So this is OneNote, so file and new page. Okay, here it is. Okay, so just give me one moment. So I'm just bringing everything into, okay, now I'm bringing. So here it is. So now I'm going to share it. Okay. Everyone can see my screen now? The thing is, now you need to speak up because I can't see you. So if you give me, oh, that would be great. Thank you. So unfortunately, this time I cannot see once I share the screen. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Thank you, Noah. Now, so task 3, economies and relevant problems, globally, nationally, statewide. So we already discussed, whenever you talk about the global issues, one of the energy price, right? Because we know the recent Ukraine-Russia conflict actually increased the oil price. And again, it is related to the energy, right? So when we talk about global, for example, I am going to talk about the energy. Now, this energy price, it does not necessarily mean just a well. It could be well, it could be gas, or it could be simply coals, right? Either way, this conflict that we are experiencing at the moment, whether it's a Russia, Ukraine, or the Middle Eastern conflict, it eventually affects this energy price. And since we live in the open economy, that means we trade, right? Trade goods with the other countries. So what happens that even though we are we live far away, but this energy price, remember, everyone demands the energy. So you import the petrol. Sorry, is there any question? Guys, do you have any question? I mean, I can see some background noise. Any question? Okay, I assume that it is not, right? Okay, so the energy price is one of these things. So basically what happens, remember, the Russia produced the well, right? And the Middle East countries, they also produce the well. And because of this Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Middle Eastern conflict, that has disruption in the well producing. And as a result, it has an impact on the energy price. Now, when the energy price goes up, what will happen? The global inflation goes up. And because our economy is open in a sense, because we need to trade goods and services, so this inflation eventually affect us, right? And top of that, there will be supply chain disruption as well, okay? So as a result, this energy price hiking will be a global issue, right? Name one thing which will be a national issue. Can anyone tell me?
The interest rate rise today.
That is correct. Interest rate will be a national issue, but I am going to make it even more interesting. So listen to this video. This is the video that I have talked about. Now, this video is talking about today's crisis. So what is today's crisis? Are you familiar with these things? Optus blackout, what is a deep network outage, and what may have caused it? Are you?
No, I'm with Telstra.
Okay, that's good. But 10 million Australians, at least this is an ABC News, which says that 10 million Australians nationwide affected because of the Optus outrage. So I'm going to talk about, so obviously this becomes a national issue. So listen to these guys who's talking about, telco expert, RMIT professor.
Statement from Optus from Optus is typical of a system being rebuilt. So they're bringing different parts of the system online. They'll be testing, and then as soon as possible, they'll be introducing customers onto that service. So we hopefully will expect to see all services return over the next hour or two.
So national outages, especially ones that run this long, are pretty rare in Australia. What do you make of what you've seen here through the morning?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that there was some type of software or systems problem that may or may not have been created by a patch or a maintenance update to their system overnight. Given that it happened about 4 a.m., I'm tending to lean in that direction. And so therefore, this fault within their system has brought down their entire network. And it's quite serious because, of course, as we've seen from your show, it's affecting everyone right across the country, and it's also affecting the smaller customers or the smaller telcos that sit on top of the Optus network. And so the flow-on effect of that is that we lose not just Optus, but we also lose all those other companies as well.
When we did hear from the Optus CEO a few hours ago, they said, I think it was at about 10:30 on Eastern Daylight Time, they said that they had a number of theories, a number of hypotheses. They tried all of those fixes and nothing resolved it. If it were a software patching issue or something, is it curious that they couldn't just roll that back? Like, why has it taken this long to identify it if it is caused by something like that?
Well, unfortunately, this is the problem related to the way that the Australian telcos are allowed to operate their networks, that they do so with these single points of failure and a lack of redundancy and systems that, are on standby. If they're patching one system, then there should be a fallback system so that if something goes wrong with the patch or the update, they can roll it back. Now, look, there was an instance where one of the telcos lost their network because of an intermittent hardware fault many years ago. Whether or not there was some type of hardware fault that led to a software fault that brought all of their network down, this really doesn't matter. What does matter is that Optus has this single point of failure. And in the year 2023, telecommunications is an essential service, as we all know. We can't talk to health, transport. There's just the flow-on effect is devastating. And really, the Optus and all the telcos, they need to break their network down. They need to have redundancy. They need to have systems in place in all the capital cities, not just in Sydney, which has been their fallback or go-to location. To have this happen in 2023 is really unacceptable. And whilst the minister was sort of saying that she would like Optus to step up, well, if the telcos don't step up, then there are two actions that the government can take. One is that they can introduce regulations to ensure that this doesn't happen again, because, this was a fault that should not have happened. And secondly, they can also require that the telcos report to the ACCC annually to provide information on the exact state of their networks and the distribution of their systems so that this type of fault doesn't happen again.
So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to ask you what you learned from this video. I'm saying this is a national thing. So of course, this is an outrage. And when this outrage happened, it's not just in Melbourne, it's Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland, Adelaide, Perth, you name it, all the capital cities, the same problem. And more importantly, we experienced that in Melbourne alone, what happens, our public transport closed down, especially the metro rail, right, is shutting down. Then in the emergency department of the hospital, they also shut down because they cannot do a lot of work. So eventually they tried their best to back up these things. So clearly, and more importantly, the many small business, they also depends on the telecommunication. For example, their post machine, this and that, and they have to take an order from online. All those things are related to this information system. And when this is an outage, obviously, this is a big problem. Now, with this video, what do you think? What is the problem here? And what is the remedy they're suggesting? Can anyone tell me? Yes, Bhavin, please go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Jason, thank you, Bhavani. Jason, what's your view? Jason, I can see that you raised your hand. Please share your view.
There we go. The person who was interviewed was making a lot of assumptions that, because I don't think they really know, but in terms of what they were claiming, they were saying that potentially about a lack of redundant systems, single point failures throughout the network, and therefore that the telcos should provide that level of redundancy as part of the service.
That's correct.
But also was insinuating that there may have been a lack of rollback processes within the actual application of a software patch or an upgrade or something like that. So that's
excellent point. Yeah.
Again, that's likely, but I'd just be reticent to take anything like he said as gospel, because he doesn't know.
Yeah, that's correct. Now, as an economist, how do we analyze this problem? That's the main point here. Now, if you look at carefully, if I draw this diagram, everyone can see my thing, right? My national, this thing. Now, remember, any problem that you discuss, first of all, you need to look at whether there's any exchange system involved in this. The answer is yes. The consumers demand those services, so that's the one part of the exchange. Another part of the exchange is telco provides the service, so telco is the supply side, right? And consumers are the demand side. So one party demand that service, another party supply that service. So obviously, once they have a mutual beneficial, then they find out the mutual beneficial, the exchange will take place, the market is created. So clearly, this is an economic stuff or economic theory. Now, more importantly, what we have learned here, it is not the consumer side problem, it is the supply side problem. And then what is the supply side does a lot of things. There's a distribution, there's a pricing, this and that. But particularly in this case, it is the technological problem, right? So basically they're saying the technology they're using is they have a core, but they don't expand it, they don't decentralize it. Someone says there will be patching problem and this and that. Whatever it is a supply side problem. Now, yes, Jason, please go ahead.
I'd just like to add then that it's the exchange is for an agreed service with the telco and between the telco and the consumer.
Yeah.
But I'd be willing to bet that if anyone actually read the terms and conditions, that it doesn't provide for that level of redundancy. Otherwise, they'd be charging us 4 times as much. So
that is correct. That is correct. So there's thank you, Jason. There's one important thing is in economics, it also says that if you want to make a system efficient, then it is better to invest on the infrastructure, on your technological development and R&D. Because when you do that, what will happen? It will lower your cost and it will make better system, more efficient system. So unfortunately, what happens in this case, telco is investing somewhere else rather than investing on the technological side, which is the core thing here. And as a result, this problem arises. Now, clearly, this policy regulation says that either ACCC has to force these things, because of course, Our life depends on that. The hospital, the public transport, you name it, right? And the small business, this all depends on that. And once you stop that, it costs us a lot. So our cost will be much higher, right? So clearly someone has to compensate that. And that's why they need to bring these things. They need to either decentralize, whatever it is. I don't understand that concept. I'm not an IT person. But what I understand is they need to invest on the technology. They come up with the better technology or R&D, make sure that the technology is efficient enough to provide a service. And more importantly, they should also come up with the backup thing. One of the idea they're saying decentralized probably is, instead of using the same core, why not you put a 6 or 7 cores in a 6 or 7 capital cities, so that if one core goes down, it will not affect nationwide and the others are safe, and you can also have a backup. But essentially, they are talking about the technological upgrade, technological invest. Now, from the history, we know the telco is a profit motivated, and as a result, they don't invest on that thing, right? And that creates a lot of problems. So I'm just telling you how, as an economist, you need to look at. When they give you the thing, first you look at, is that a supply side problem or is a demand side problem? That is, if it's a supply side problem, where it is. Now, always remember, in supply side, there's a couple of things: cost, technology, these are all related to the supply side, and they are interrelated. If you improve the technology, that may be cost-saving innovation, which is very important, that will lower the cost, make the system more efficient. So somehow they're taking the money, they're making a profit, but they refuse to invest on that. And whenever these things happen, to my surprise, there is no message to any customers, any institution, that there is an outrage. And it took them 6 or 7 hours. All the nationalized are asking, why you not tell the customers, right? So it also eventually tells customer service is not that good here, because partly reasons they don't have a clue what's going on, right? But anyway, that's a national problem. And I just explained that thing. So instead of giving you a mortgage, everyone knows, I just give you today's problem, how it becomes a problem there. Okay, the third one is called a statewide problem. So tell me, what is the problem with the Victoria state? Since I live in Victoria, I don't know much about the other states. So yes, someone actually put the thing. Let me check. Johnny says, how can they tell the customers if the customers' telecommunication are not working? That is a very good point, but they can always come to the media, right? The press or Channel 9 News and so on, where they can express that thing, and then we can know what's going on, right? For me, I'll tell you my personal experience. I was with the Yes Optus. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I was doing my research, and all of a sudden, especially I'm a fan, not a research, I was probably lying. I was watching cricket very, very closely. And when I find that Australia lose 7 wickets, 99 runs, Glenn Maxwell is there, I went to sleep because I was very disappointed against Afghanistan. And then when I wake up, at that moment, I find that someone says that Glenn Maxwell is scoring 201, and that was magnificent thing. And I wanted to know more about it, how he did it. At that point, I surprised none of my devices working, right? And I was very, very upset what's going on, because I'm a diehard of cricket fan. And that's how I know. And it took me 3 hours, because when I look at the Channel 9 News in 7, right, I find that, oh, this is a national-wide outrage. So remember, when you think about the economics, everything is related. Your supply side problem, it is also related to your consumer side, because the demand side is there, right? And the service is most important. If there is an outage, at least you should make a press briefing that, look, this is a problem, we're trying to fix it, don't worry, we are there. But if you don't say anything, I feel like, where am I? I don't know what's going on here, right? And I have a lecture class to take, and I have no idea. And I end up with my office because I don't want to miss my lecture class, right? So everyone was panicked, right? public transport shutting down, the emergency department in the hospital has a problem, a lot of things. So Jason, you said they also use their own products and service exclusively, so they would have been cut off themselves. There would have been a lot of executive assistants running to shops this morning to buy Telstra SIMs for executives. Yes, that is correct. That is exactly right. Luckily, I was lucky because my phone, the mobile phone, is not with EOS Optus. It is with a different carrier. And I was walking through that, right? So it was total chaos. But anyway, I'll just explain what is the national outrage could be and how it becomes the problem. I think you find it more interesting because we are talking about the topical issues rather than any passive issues here. A statewide problem. One of the biggest problems in the Victoria state is our state debt. Remember, during the COVID-19, we have a prolonged lockdown. In fact, we have 256 or 253 days, if I recall it correctly, lockdown. As a result, our economies have to shut down, this and that, and many industries affect adversely because of this prolonged lockdown. So the government has to revive this economy by investing more. One way to do it, invest on the infrastructure that will create more job opportunities so people can work and that can generate more income. But that has some cost as well. If you invest in the infrastructure, you are also accumulating debt because the government doesn't own the money. This money is coming from whom? The Victorians. Now, what happens when the government accumulates the debt? Who will pay that? It is the Victorians who is going to pay that. So as a result, they have no other choice but increase the tax. Whether it's a land tax or something else, they have to do it because they have to generate the revenue to recover these Victoria state debt. And that creates the problem because nobody wants to have that outcome. Nobody wants to have that outcome. Part of the reason is, look, we already have enough in our table. We have inflation. We have interest rate hiking. Our living cost goes up. The cost of burden also goes up. On top of that, you are imposing tax, right? What's going on here? And as a result, we see that there's a lot of political chaos happening. Our premier stepped down, even though he denies it's nothing to do with that. And the new premier comes and she has to decide how to tackle with these things. Not only that, we also notice that our Commonwealth Games has been cancelled as well, right? So the state debt, especially state government debt, is the problem, not the private debt, but the public debt, because at the end, it is the Victorian citizens who are going to pay that, right? So that's one of the problems, and still I'm not sure how they're going to pay it. Let's see how it goes. So guys, I'm just explaining the global, national, and statewide. Everything is clear? Do you have any questions?
Well, for me, this is Claire coming in. For me, it depends on where you fit in the economy. So
Okay.
if you are a young person trying to save money and get ahead, it's an issue. I'm now retired and I'm comfortably retired.
Yeah.
None of this is an issue.
That is
So
correct.
when you say you've got a problem with what the state spends, I'm going, at least they're forward thinking. So
Okay.
it depends on perspective. It depends on, it's a whole complexity in it. It's not simple like my notes from my thing says.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. And that will come to my next question, task 4. Now I'm going to tell you what's the real problem in Australia. By the way, you choose the right point. I'm glad that you did that. Now I'm coming to that point. Now, what happens here, we are talking about the incentive. Incentive means I give you something, whether it's a benefit scheme, whatever it is, and whether you respond to that incentive, right? Whatever the benefit scheme I'm giving. Now, they're talking about the baby boom, in particularly the number of births. So what they did, the Australian government introduced the baby bonus, right? And they want to see what happens to the baby bonus in here, right? Now, before that, I need to talk about some of the demographic structure, what you are just talking about right now. Generally, the demographic pyramid, this is called a demographic pyramid. I'll just consider a very simple version. We like to have a demographic pyramid, which is this. So what is that? The bottom one this one, right? These are the size of the working people, right? And this one is the people who retired. So these are the retirees. And this is called an ideal. Why? Because the working people, they work. And then as a government, I can impose tax on them, whether it's called an income tax, right? I can have an income tax on them. And then I can generate more revenue. And through the transfer payment, I can support our retirees, right? How? To give them a pension scheme, better health system, better old home facilities, and so on, right? And this is the ideal one, right? Modigliani, who actually did that thing in long time ago, and he got the Nobel Prize for that, and he was showing that how this is called a life cycle income hypothesis, how it works, right? So there's a working people. Can anyone
Sorry, that's just me coming in again. Well, that would depend on who your retired people are. Are they people who are
that's right.
independently wealthy or people who need a pension?
That's right. But I'm talking an overall thing, and I'm talking about the economy. I will come back to that one, what's going on in Australia. So this is this is an ideal thing for economists. We call it life cycle income hypothesis. It is developed by Modigliani. He was an Italian economist, and he got the Nobel Prize for that. Ideally is that you should expect your demographic pyramid should be like this. Your size of working people will be sufficiently large enough to generate enough revenue so that you can support the retirees with a better health system, better old home system, and so on. What happens in Australia, this pyramid is actually upside down. Now we have a problem. So what does that mean? The working people group, that size shrinks drastically. On the other hand, the size of the retiree people actually increases. Now we have a problem. You are right. Some of the retirees are very rich. They can support by themselves. But the majority of them may not be in the same group, right? So now what will happen? I want to generate more tax revenue for this income tax or the government revenue, and so that I can support the retirees here. Now, if your working people, that size is shrinking rapidly, then I have a problem because my source of tax revenue, in particular, the tax revenue goes down drastically. In that case, I have a big problem because, and during the COVID-19, we experienced this kind of problem that we have a problem with the old home, we have a problem with the disability help and all those things. Part of the thing is, one hand we have COVID, but more importantly, the working people, that size, the demographics is shrinking. And this is the problem that we have. So what the government did, okay, I want to solve this problem. So there's several ways to solve this problem. The one way they says, okay, why not we allow the skill migration? That could be one way. So the idea is these are the young skill migration and you want to increase this size. Why not you just bring the skill migration? They might get more jobs and eventually the government can increase their tax revenue, right? Other way to do it, but that's the one solution. There's another solution. Why not you give a baby bonus so the number of births will go up? So eventually it will increase the size of the working people in the long run, right? So that's why the baby bonus is coming, right? Now, once this baby bonus is coming, look at this, what is happening here. So if you look at carefully in this baby bonus, I can see initially the trend was downward and the baby bonus is introduced in this year. All of a sudden, you see there's a sudden spike. So clearly people are responding to that. But once it is there, then again, it is falling in this direction. So now the question is, when we design this sort of incentive, right? And I give you the background why we are doing it. Dione, okay, Dione, yeah, Dione, please go ahead. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were going to just keep
No,
going
that's
a little
all
bit.
right.
That's okay. So I read that graph as prospective parents that were about to have children found out the baby bonus was coming in, and so then they waited a couple of months, and so there was, you know, people that were potentially going to get pregnant and then have babies in June. They waited a couple of months, and they combined with the people who were getting pregnant naturally going to be in July, and that's how I understood that spike.
And you are right. This is exactly the explanation why this spike is going on, right? So the potential, so the couple who wants to have a baby, when they realize the baby bonus is coming, they waited for this period so that they can avail these incentives, right? However, the problem, so the short run, because of that, you see this spike exactly for the same reason. So excellent explanation, and this is why this is happening. Well done. But the problem is, after a while, you can see people are not responding at all, and the trend is downward, which is going down. So what is happening in the short run, those who already decided to have a baby, they delayed that thing so that they can have this bonus, right? And clearly you can see there's a huge spike on that. But yeah, eventually the couples go back to their original position because they realize that $5,000 baby bonus is not enough. To raise a baby it costs more than that. You need to make sure they have a better school, better health, and parenting also costly, right? You have to take a maternity leave, you have to take care of your kids, you maybe go to the part-time from your full-time job. So there's a lot of costs involved, and the $5,000 is nothing compared to that. So once they realize, they are actually going back slowly to their previous thing. So now the question is, does this incentive works? The answer will be, well, it depends. In the short run, we can see this spike, maybe it works, but in the long run, it doesn't, right? So any incentive that you have designed, you need to be careful in this case, because you actually look at what happens in the short run, then you also look at what happens in the long run. Short run, it might work, but the long run, it doesn't, right? So the answer is yes and no together, right?
Because people don't make decisions based on money.
Yes, that's eventually come out, but some people don't take their decision in the long run when they realize that this money is not enough to raise a baby. That's what I am saying here. So the answer to this question is yes and no. Yes is in the short run. Some couple responds to the incentives, but eventually in the long run, they don't, because they realize what will be the actual cost, and it will be way above the $5,000. So that will be the policy analysis. So I'm just giving you some tips how you analyze the policy. Look at the long run, look at the short run, how the people respond. And more importantly, whenever someone gives any policy, you need to check the background history, why this policy comes at the first place. And that's why I'm using that demographic pyramid to understand the rationale behind this policy, right? Now then you see in the long run whether this policy really works, whether it increases the working population group or not. That will come to the cost-benefit analysis. And once it did that analysis, they eventually took it out because it's not working that much. So that's the history or story behind it. Any question? Everyone is okay with that? Yes, Diony, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I just kind of thought as a conclusion that they need a longer run incentive.
That's right.
To be successful.
That is correct, right? So someone actually talk about the retiree, the rich. Who is that? I forgot the name because I can't see you, right? Could you please explain your point?
Yeah, I think that was Claire. Was that you, Claire, before?
What was the point? Sorry, Naveen. What was
No,
say?
you're saying that I admit you are right, because some of the retirees are rich and they can support themselves. So that part is correct. But at some point I lost it. So
when we look at this graph around birthing, and I'm going to say I'm a midwife and maternal and child health nurse. What we noted is that we knew that was coming, because the government was throwing money at short-term stuff. So people who were thinking about having a child delayed their having a child. Apart from the accidents. And then post the baby boom, people just reverted to which is normal behavior, which is, do we want to have a baby or do we not?
Excellent.
So money didn't matter.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you're right. So now you can see that your expansion and the economics argument is pretty much the same, right?
And I imagine what happened is for people who were fairly well off, like myself, it made no difference. And for those people who lived in poverty, it made
That's
a difference.
right.
And so that's my problem when I look at economics is who are economic people who ran economics, who are they looking at? Are they looking at people in poverty? Are they looking at middle class? Or are they looking at comfortable people?
That is very good point. So in economics, we call it, when you look at the consumers or you look at the market, markets are segmented. And these markets are segmented on the basis of income, in a sense that some people have lower income, their willingness to pay is low. And some people has a higher income, their willingness to pay is very high. And some people are in between, is the middle income group, right? So your market is segmented into three: high, middle, and a lower income group. And
I would also suggest it's based on expectation as well.
Yeah, that's correct. So
I'm poor, happy being poor. I don't want to move out of that. I'm comfortable, you know?
Yeah,
So it
that's right.
depends.
So, and more importantly, economists are also aware of that each income group can form a different type of expectation. So the expectation that is formed by the lower income group is not the expectation that is formed by the middle, and not the expectation that is formed by the higher income group. So they have a different thing. So to mitigate these things, which group you're going to support, because government cannot discriminate, right? So they come up with the idea, and again, this idea goes back to the Hotelling, and he says that why not you choose the median people who are in the middle, right? And that's why you'll find very often the politicians and economists, they are also talking about the median citizen group, or sometimes the well-known concept is called the median voter theorem. So you have market segmented, the high, low, middle. So they always focus on the middle, because if you choose the middle, then you actually neutralize the side effect, not completely go away. It's still the side effects will be there, because how it affects high income group will not be the same. It will affect the low income group, but what will happen, it will minimize to some extent. So that's why they call it median group, or look at the median group income or median income group, because that will help. I will tell you in another way. When you look at the house price, it is true that if you want to buy a house price, you go for high price, low price, but more importantly, sometimes you go for average price on that suburb. So if you want to buy a house in Toorak, what will be the average price? But sometimes it will not give you the good indication, especially the distributions are different. Then you always find, we also talk the other thing, what is the median house price? Because we want to see in the middle, and that might give you a better indication. So similar concept economists are also using here. Instead of choosing, they know that markets are segmented, as you have noticed, and your observation is very correct. Then they will always choose a median thing, and the policymaker generally focus on that. Does it make clear? Clara, does it make sense?
Yes and no, because as someone who's in the upper part of things, I have many kids 2 generations down who live in poverty.
That's true.
So my interest is not in where I'm at. It's not in the median. That's how I move people out of poverty.
That is correct. So there's a lot of conversation on that. I'm just telling you that when you have to generalize, you cannot target. There's one called a positioning and targeted policy. But if you can't do that, then what will be other alternatives? And mostly they go for median. But again, as I said, it has its own drawbacks, as you have mentioned as well, right?
Yeah, in my reading of the last week.
Okay, yep, that is correct.
The economics talks about moving people up.
Yeah.
So that's about looking at people in poverty, moving them up. And globally, that is what we have done. We have moved people across the world out of poverty.
Now I'm going to
But
give
look in
you.
Australia,
Yeah,
I don't see the same thing happening.
that's correct. Now I just want to finish this one, and then I'll come back to one example. And I tell you, even though they go for equitable distribution, still there's a problem. I'll just come back to Clara to that point, and you find it even more fascinating. I'm going to open the Pandora's box. But before that, I need to finish that thing. And please bear me another 10 minutes. I'm apologizing for that because I have to spend on the cloud decking side. Generally, we don't do that, but I thought it is better to give you instruction what to do, how to prepare, right? And that's why I spend quite a bit time on that. My apology. So if you're with me another 10 minutes, I'm going to finish that, okay? Now, here, this says, draw a graph, illustrate the following relationship X and Y. Now, it says X move up, X and Y move up together and down together. I generally say, forget about this maths. I generally say these are the best friend relationship. So whatever X does, Y will follow it, right? Whatever Y does, X will follow it. So how I explain that? So here it is. So if X goes up, Y will also goes up. If X goes down, Y will also goes down. I generally call it best friend relationship because if X is the best friend of Y, then obviously Y and X, they know each other very well. And whatever X does, Y will say yes. And whatever Y does, X will say yes, right? In general, right? So this is all about the best friend is all about, right? So this and how you explain that, if you look at carefully, when the X goes up, Y also goes up. Think about this way. Your initial X is here and your initial Y is here. Now you increase your X in this way, right? Now, initial X and initial Y, their coordinate is here where they meet together. So we actually have a point A where they meet. Now, suppose I increase X1 to X2 here, and I do the same thing, Y1 to Y2 here. And then if you look at their new coordinate, you'll see it will be here between Y2 and X2, and that will give me B. And if you connect this A and B, clearly you can see a line which is going upward. So in other words, what it means, when X and Y are moving together in the same direction, you always get an upward sloping line. The best example in the real world is the supply curve. So generally what happens when the price of the goods goes up, then the producer has more incentive to supply more goods. Why? Everything else remains the same. If the price goes up, it gives an indication to the producer. If they produce more, they can earn more profit. And therefore, they will also increase the quantity supply. And this relationship, sometimes we call it law of supply. But if you look at the supply curve, you will find that it will be upward sloping curve. Part of the reasons is both of them are moving in the same direction. Either they move up together or move down together. Because they are moving in the same direction, that's why it's called a positive relationship, and this is how it is done, okay? Now, my next question is, I'm just clearing all drawings here. This is another question, Y is independent of X. So what does that mean? So suppose initially my X is here, right? So I'll just take these things. My X is here and my Y is here. So the corresponding coordinate is here and I call it A, right? Now suppose my X goes up from X1 to X2, but my Y doesn't change, right? In this case, the corresponding quantity or coordinate will be B because it is still the same Y, but more X. In this case, if you draw a line A and B, you'll find that it is a line which is parallel to the horizontal axis. More importantly, what does that imply? It implies that even you change X, you increase X or you decrease X, there will be no change in Y. So in other words, Y has no relationship to X, right? Sometimes in economics, we use this kind of curve to show that the firm or the company has no market power to manipulate the price, right? So Diony, this is not the regulated price, but it is the opposite of that. It basically means that you are pretty much there. It basically means the farm has no market power to change the price, right? So it is that, but government can also fix up the price. In that case, Diony, you're right, it will be a regulated price. So the government says by law, the price is fixed, which is this, and it doesn't matter whether you produce that much or you produce this much, still you have to maintain the same price. So in that sense, Diony, you're right, that would be a regulated price. That is the one interpretation when the government regulates the price. Another interpretation is, suppose the government doesn't regulate the price. The question is whether the company can manipulate the price. The thing is, if there is a line which is parallel to the horizontal axis, always remember, it also means when there's no government intervention, when there's no government regulation, then the farm alone cannot change the price. So basically, farm has no market power to manipulate the price. The best example is the dairy product. Even though we are talking about the 2-liter milk that we use in the breakfast for our cereal, what will happen whether you go to the next door milk bar, right, closest to your house, or you go to the grocery shop in Coles and Woolworth, you'll find that the 2-liter milk, the price does not change that much. So that basically means the dairy product for the 2-liter milk, it is a competitive market. It doesn't matter what company they're producing, still the price is pretty much same. There might be 10 or 15 cents difference, but it is more or less the same on average. And that call that none of them has got a market power. So this can also indicate it is a competitive market. So there's a two side of it. If it's a regulated price, then what Diony says is correct. But suppose there's no government intervention, then it can also indicate that farm has no market power. We will learn that thing in our competitive market. Okay. So I'm not just giving you these graph, I'm also giving you some examples. Now, this is the examples. You can say the enemy relationship in a sense that if one goes up, the other goes down, right? Now I'm going to show you. So if the X goes up, right, then Y will go down. If the X goes down, then Y will go up. So clearly you can increase X. So initially X is here, and the corresponding Y1 is here, and their corresponding coordinate is A, right? So you can see that it goes up to here, and it goes there, right, is A. Then you increase X, which is B, this corresponding quantity, right? But as a result, the corresponding Y actually goes down if you want to get that. And if you connect A and B, you'll see it is a downward sloping. So that basically means when the two variables have an opposite direction of moving, the line that goes in this way actually tells you the opposite relationship. Sometimes we call it negatively sloped. The best example is the demand law. Generally, what happens when the price goes up, the consumers demand less because they find that the goods are very expensive, their budget is given. As a result, they don't demand more goods, they demand less goods. Because these two variables moving in the different direction, if you want to plot that, you'll find this sort of line, which actually explains that thing. Sometimes we call it downwardly sloped line, or we can call it negatively sloped line. Either way, this is your demand curve looks like, okay? So Clara, you says, my problem is that there is no clear relationship between X and Y. Economics has the same complexity as psychology, where 30% correlation is considered significant because there is so many moderate. If you ask my honest opinion, I will probably say I 100% agree, right? Frankly speaking, whatever we are doing, we are guessing on the basis of probability. And when we are guessing everything with the, of course, we are estimating that thing from the real world data, but those estimation is based on the probability measure. So as long as there is a probability measure, there's always a probability or that we are making a mistake. So we need to keep that thing in mind and we need to keep it open. So Clara, unfortunately, I'm going to agree with these things because as an economist, we know we are talking about the probability. But in general, we need to draw a line, right? So in general, we said this is the case, but there is always an exceptional case as well where this will not hold. Okay, so it is good that you open up your thought process, and I'm really glad that you do that. But in the law of demand and law of supply, we will also explain that thing. Probably your lecturer, when you go through the lecture notes, you will also explain that thing, why this is not a downward sloping and under what case it will be upward sloping, right? Does it make sense to Clara? I can give you an example very quickly. But first I need to finish everything, right? So Clara, are you happy with that explanation?
Yes, just full of complexities.
Yeah, that's right. It is. I completely agree. Now, this is a relationship. It says that X increases and then it reaches the maximum point. And you can see that it is true. So clearly you can see that when the X goes up in this way, that Y start increasing and then Y reaches its maximum point. And after this point, if you increase X more, then your Y start falling. In economics, we actually use this kind of curve to show the profit of a farm. Generally, what happens when your cost goes up, initially when you produce more, given the price, you will make more profit. But as you produce more and more, your cost of production will go up, and it will go up significantly that eventually it will eat your profit. So you should expect initially will go up, and when it starts eating up into profit because of huge cost of production, then you expect your profit will fall, right? And that's why these things will appear. So this is why it's called, yes, Vavin, please go ahead. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Sorry, say it again. No, that will happen after you cross this point. Okay, there are a couple of things. So generally in economics, we will learn that thing in the later class. What happens, we have some fixed amount of capital. So when you start the business, you don't go for expansion straight away, right? First, you try to familiarize your product, and then you try to gain the market share, and so on and so on. In this stage, what you'll find that some of your factors of production are fixed. Now, when some of your factors production are fixed, then what will happen initially, whatever the variable input you're using, for example, I'm using a labor and the capital is fixed in the short run. So when I use 1 unit of labor, then it will work with the full amount of capital that I keep fixed. But as you increase more and more labor, each labor will get less and less amount of fixed capital to work with. So this has some consequences. What will happen initially, the small amount of labor work with the full fixed capital amount, and you should expect your return will go up, which eventually bring more profit, right? But as you increase with more and more labor with this fixed amount of capital, then you should expect that because each labor gets a small amount of capital to work with, you should expect that return of the labor start falling. And that's why your profit start falling in this way. Now, in economics, we call it diminishing return principle. The idea is if you have more and more of one thing, eventually you'll find that its return will diminish because your opportunity cost or the cost of production will be very high. Why is that? Why my cost goes up very high? Because of this scarcity. Remember, we have a limited resources. So if you use all of your resources at only one goods production, then at some point you are stopping to produce other goods, which means your cost, not only that the elements that you're using, the factors that you're using, but you're also giving up the other goods. So your cost will be huge. And that's actually reflected in this profit function, right? So this is why it is called a diminishing return. But for the first year, I'm not going into that. All I'm saying that when you start with your business, you don't increase every input. You keep some of the input fixed because you want to familiarize your product and you want to gain a market share. But once you reach the mature stage, if you don't expand your business, then what will happen? You find that your profit starts falling because your cost keeps adding up and again, right? And that's the reason you'll find that the profit function is this. So this is why you will find that when they initially start the business, in the real world, they keep some of the input fixed, they try to get the market share. But once they reach the mature stage, then you'll find that the business is expanding. So basically what it means, once you reach this maximum point, if you want to increase your input, it will not work unless you expand your factories or you come up with the diversification strategy. Say, for example, if you look at the Virgin Blue, initially they start with the domestic industry, air flight domestic industry, and then eventually they launch other kind of diversity product. For example, the Virgin credit card, and they enter in the financial market, so on and so on. So basically they're trying to expansion because they realize that they are pretty much having their mature stage. So Vavni, that doesn't make sense? Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead, Bhavin. So x-axis here. No, it is an input. You can input, yes. Think about this way, is a profit. That's what I'm saying, right? Okay. So we will learn more about it later on. So what is the next question? Oh, sorry about that. I'm just, give me another 2 minutes. I will finish that. And I promise next time I will not exceed the time limit, because today I spent so much time on the main stuff, which you need to know. So how do we calculate this slope? So Clara, you says, I really look forward to some real world arguments explanation on the topic, as it does not feel simple or easy, but full of complexity, scarcity for parts of our society. You're right. It is more complicated stuff, right? So at some point when you start, you'll see that we will draw a very simple line to make it very simple, right? Okay, I'll come back to that one. First, I need to finish the slope. Now, remember, the slope means vertical run over the horizontal run. So if you go to the building block, you will find that it is there, vertical run over the horizontal run. So in this case, what does the slope means here? I am trying to calculate, this is the slope. And remember, this is my vertical run, and this is my horizontal run. So horizontal run actually is nothing but the difference between these 2 points. And what would be that one? Is a 5 minus 4, that would be 1. And the vertical run is the difference between these 2 points, and that would be 10 minus 6, that will be 4. And the formula says vertical run over the horizontal run, this is 4 over 1, right? And that is called the slope. Now, if you think of it carefully, this figure is a bit tricky. I'll give you a very simple figure, then probably it will make better understanding. Suppose you have a line here. Now, if you keep a cricket ball, the simple tennis ball here, what do you expect this ball will do? Does it remain there, or it will drop in this direction? What do you think? Everyone? It's dropping, it's going in this direction, right? So that basically means this one is a bit slopey. So how do I measure this slope? The one way to do it, if you look at the horizontal axis of this one, the slope will be measured by this angle, right? Because that is what the key one. But one of the thing is, if you consider this is a vertical intercept that is say 6, and this is your horizontal intercept, say 2, now this is called a 0, then this basically calls a vertical run, and this basically calls the horizontal run. Now I will tell you why this vertical run and horizontal run matters. Now you'll see, suppose I want to make this one bit flatter. Then what I can do, I keep these things intact and I draw a line like this. So which means the curve is pivoting in this way. And if you pivot more, eventually it will coincide with the horizontal axis. which means it becomes more flatter, right? If I want to make, that also means, remember, you are reducing the vertical run gradually. And here, once it becomes coincided with the horizontal run, your vertical run is 0. On the other hand, if I want to make it steeper, then what you will do, you will pivot the other way around. So basically, instead of this, you go in this way and pivoting in this direction. But that also means you are increasing the vertical run. So that's why the vertical run and the horizontal run will determine the slope, right? That ratio. So always remember, if the vertical run goes up, it will become more steeper, as I said here, that it will go in this pivoting in that direction. If the vertical run goes down, that it will go in that direction, it becomes more and more flatter. And this slope is very important because the slope is telling us the rate of change. So if this ball goes in this way, what will be the rate it is dropping? Probably you can assimilate that thing or from the information of the slope. Now, how does that affect in the economics? Very simple. Sometimes we know when you increase the quantity, your profit might change. Now, we want to know the rate of change of the profit when I increase my output production. Now, that is a slope. So we called it the slope of the profit function, which basically tells you if you increase one additional increase of output, what is the rate of profit it will change. That will be the slope of the profit. So that's why we use the slope concept. Please go through the building block. You will find it is there. I explained that thing very clearly. But in case if you have any question, you can send me an email if you like, right? Now, the last two questions. This one, first I go through these things because this one is much thing. How do I solve these things? Now, remember, this question can be written as 7/8 divided by 21/16, right? Now, how do I do that? My primary math tells me 7/8. This will be replaced with the multiplication sign. And once you do that, you actually, this denominator goes up, numerator goes down. So basically you are, because you change the sign, you have to do the penalty. So the 16 will be up, 21 will be left, down, and then you simplify that thing, that will be 3, and you simplify that will be 2. So this will be 2/3, which you're right, Clara, it will be 0/66. Now, the best way to do it, if you don't agree with these things, how I did it, go take your calculator. You are allowed to use a calculator. You just do the 7/8 in your calculator divided by 21 divided by 16, and it will give you straight away 0.66, straight away, right? So this is not a big drama. And here is the percentage change. The best way to do it, remember, Mary used to drink 5 glasses of water. Now it changes 8 glasses of water. So how many additional glasses of water she's drinking? Well, 8 minus 5, that will be 3. So with 5 glasses, she's increasing 3 additional. So it's called a monetary unit for 1 glasses. How much she's increasing? 3/5, right? Now, in terms of percentage, you just multiply by 100. And yes, you are getting the same percentage here. It's more 60% actually. 5 and 100, that will be 20. 20 times 30, that will be 60. So there will be 60% increase, right? That's it. We finished that thing. Everyone is happy, and I'm so sad and apologize again because we are over the limit. But I'm glad that we finished today, and I have explained every details of it which you need to know. At the same time, we discovered in the process, like Clara says, there is a complexity here and there, right? It is there. So now I just finished this thing. So I'm going to stop recording, right? Stop sharing. If you have any question, you can ask me. I'm going to stop recording. And if you want to go, you are most welcome to do that. So I'm going to stop recording. Thank you, everyone, for your patience, right? Even though I exceed 10 minutes, I apologize for that. But I try my best to give you instruction how to prepare for the next 11 weeks. Hopefully in the next weeks onward, we are not going to explain anymore because I explain everything as much as I can. So you have a proper idea how to do it. Now, by the way, this session is recorded and it will be uploaded. So if you missed any of these things or you cannot recall, you can always play the recording and you can listen to this, what is happening, right? So I'm going to stop recording. Good night. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Stop recording.
Recording stopped.
Yes. Now you can ask me any question now. So Clara, you want to know?
No, I don't need to know anything. I just want to thank you. So I just want to be in a class where we discuss things and have arguments and play with things. Yeah? There's nothing more boring than people
generally in my class, all my students knows me that I love these because the more question you ask, the counter argument you give, better your understanding, right?
That's what I want. That's what I want from this seminar.
Yes.
I want us to have good arguments.
That's right. And I just let you know that because you're coming from the midwife background, right?
Yeah.
The science background. So in the science, there is a journal called The Nature. Have you heard the journal Nature?
Yep.
By the way, I'm one of the associate editor of this Nature portfolio journal.
Yep, I just think we need to spend more time arguing with
that's right.
rational thoughts and scientists and stuff. One of the things I've missed being back at uni in the last 4 years is having good arguments that are based on, people thinking things out. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's my pleasure.
See you next week. Thank you.
See you. Bhavin, what's your question? Please go ahead. Thank you. Bhavin, are you there? You raise your hand, right? Yeah. No. You need to understand properly. So I'm going to share the whiteboard. If you have a 1 minute time, and can you? Okay. So I'm going to show you what is the mechanism here. Why? It has nothing to do with the demand. It's to do with the production. When you talk about the profit, production and cost, right? So we haven't covered that thing yet. We will cover that thing in week 3 or week 4, around that time. So because you're asking, I'll just give you a very simple example. I'm not going to use a graph. Think about this way. You need to produce an output Q, and for that, you need a capital, and your capital is 100 units, and it is fixed, right? Now, what happens to produce a capital, your variable input is labor. So you increase more and more worker. So suppose you have one worker. So this worker work with the full strength of the capital, the 100 units, right? So what will happen to the productivity of this worker? It will be very high. Okay. Now suppose you actually increase worker from 1 worker to 10 workers. Yeah, so basically with the same 100, now each worker will get only 10 units of capital to work with on average, right? So the 100 divided by 10, that will be 10. Am I right? Now, do you think this productivity of this worker will be as high like this first worker? No, exactly. So this is why we are saying what will happen in the profit function. Initially, your productivity will go up and you will get more profit because of the higher productivity. And that will happen up to this. But here I'm using labor and here I'm calculating the profit. But because this capital is fixed, once you reach this point, if you increase more and more, each labor will get less and less capital to work with. And eventually you'll find because their labor productivity falls, that will also reflect it in your profit. You find that profit is also falling, right? So this is sometimes known as diminishing marginal return. Now, when you go through the production function, you'll find that it is there. Okay? That's all right. Okay. Emmanuel, you have any question for me? Emmanuel, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm here. I have question about the one, I think the one Claire and you like talk about the, what's it called, the medium one. So
Medium Voter theorem. Okay, yeah. Yes, please go ahead. What do you want to know about
yeah,
that?
so like the
So-
economy is sorry.
Yeah, no, please go ahead.
Okay. Oh, so yeah, I was thinking like the economy they like measure it based on the middle one, like the medium one, right?
I'll just show you in example what is happening.
Mhm.
Suppose you have a 3 segmented of people, right?
Mhm.
So they are equal size. So these are the high income group, this is the middle income group, and this is the low income group, right?
Mhm.
If the policy, suppose I'm trying to provide a public goods here, right? Say for public health system or better public education system. Now, if I want to provide more public goods or better public goods, then I have to tax more, right? Because public goods, I need to, government does not print money, it generates through the taxation of the citizens. Now, what is happening? Suppose I want to give a high quality public goods, but then it also means I have to tax high. If I give a medium quality, then I have to tax medium. And if I go into low quality of public goods, then I have to tax low, right?
Okay.
So basically what it means, high tax, then this middle tax, and the tax low, right? Now suppose if I go to this group, high income group, they don't like to pay high tax, right? Nobody wants to like to pay high tax. So if I ask them, okay, these are the 3 policies I have, which one you like? They will probably suggest this one because this is the least tax. They will say, okay, supply the low quality of public goods because I have enough money. I can support myself. I can go somewhere else and do my operation, not this country, somewhere else. But I don't want to pay high tax, right? So they will prefer low tax. On the other hand, if you go to the low income group, they will say, okay, look, you need to provide me high quality. But the high quality means high tax, right? So what will happen? Each of these group are going to pay high tax. This one, this one, this one. But they will be very happy because it's still they're getting high quality. But this group will not be that happy, right? Because they can afford high quality somewhere else. Why they're going to pay high tax? So clearly, even though it may satisfy this will not satisfy this group, right? So what the politician will do, they will compromise between these 2 groups by choosing this median group, which is a middle income. That means—
Oh, wait, sorry. So the low income one, they choose the high quality.
They choose the high quality of the public good. But
with
high
high tax.
income one, they will choose the low quality of the public good because of the tax. So that basically means if I choose that, then both of these 2 will unsatisfied. If I choose that, then these 2 will be unsatisfied. But if I choose the middle one, now they will realize that alternative will be worse. So they will probably prefer this. And they will also realize alternative will never be achieved because the high will always give an objection. They will also prefer that. So eventually, the median one will increase. Will win. So that's what the whole argument. So if you go through the Hotelling model, or if you go through the median voter theorem, you will find this argument.
What is that one? What is the?
It's called I'll just write it down. Median voter theorem. So the idea is I'm trying to vote which public good I will prefer, high quality, medium quality, or low quality, right? And you will find that eventually it is the median voter theorem that actually work better. So that's why when there's a two political parties, you always find they eventually converge to the middle income group. Right? That's the whole idea, because in that way, you can maximize your votes. That's why whether you consider the right-wing party or left-wing party, during the vote, you'll find that their platform or their election agenda is very close. Because they are targeting the median one.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. I guess like for the high income one, it makes sense that they wanna, like, they don't want to pay tax high. Like, who wants to pay tax high, right?
Yeah.
But so they prefer like the low quality one.
Yeah,
right?
but the low one, they prefer the high quality because they cannot afford the private health, right? So their only way to go to the public health. So as long as public health will be good, they will be very happy.
Yeah.
Right? But then
Because
if
it's
you
low
vote,
tax.
yeah, because you vote, the other two will always oppose that. Because they know that for high quality, they have to pay high tax. And the rich people don't want to do it, right? So that's why the high quality will not work. Low quality will not work because the low and medium will vote against it. So eventually, if you go to the medium quality, that will work because they will realize that alternative is even worse.
Okay, so like if the high income one choose the low tax, so the medium and the low income, they will vote against the high
That
income.
is correct.
Like can I because I don't understand, like, why would they vote against? And
okay, so remember, it's the tax which matters and the quality of the public goods matters. So if you choose high quality, they will probably prefer, even though it's a high tax, they will prefer because they have no alternatives. They cannot afford the private health, right?
Okay.
Now remember, the high quality, even though the government gives a high quality, but there will be high tax, but it will be not as much as a private insurance or something like that. It will be less still because government will also subsidize that. On the other hand, this guy will, the high income group, they will find it very, very not that attractive because they have to pay relatively higher tax, which is TH.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They don't love it. The median group also says that, okay, I prefer TM, but now I have to pay TH. I don't like it either. Right? So then what will happen? These two groups will oppose, so this will not solution. If you choose for low quality, then what will happen? The median income group, they says, okay, I'm paying low tax, but then I'm also getting a low quality of the public goods, right? Which is this.
Yeah.
And they don't like it because they like this quality, right? So they're going to oppose that. And the low income group is obviously going to oppose it because they prefer high. They never go for low. Now, if you target the medium, which is QM, now these guys realize, okay, for that, I'm going to pay TM, and TM is less than high quality, high tax. It is less than that. So it is better to some extent because otherwise alternative will be worse. On the other hand, medium group, they will be very happy because they like exactly what it is. Quality, right? And they will also like it because alternative is that this guy which proposing for low quality health and they don't like it, the low income group. So quality, medium quality is much better than low quality. So they will also like it. So eventually the median one is going to win in this voting system. So that's why it's called a median voter theorem. So you always focus on the median income group's preference. That will always ensure your winning position.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Look, this is a very simplistic version, but in the real world, it is more complex, as Claire pointed out, because there's a lot of lobbyists there. For example, in US, the gun lobbyists are very, very strong. So even though there's a lot of gun-related violences spreading, this and that, because the gun lobbyist is most powerful, that even though there's a median voter, they don't want these gun incidents still the government cannot do anything because these lobbyists, the gun lobbyists, are the primary sponsor of each of these political party, right? So clearly the real world picture is quite different. It actually depends what kind of complexity you are adding and what kind of complexity you've gone through. On the other hand, in Australia, we successfully have the gun law and avoid all kind of gun incident. So we make a law and we prohibited these guns, and after that we are fine, right? So probably in here the gun lobbyists are not that strong, and the median voter theorem wins. But in US that never happens, right? Very, very interesting question. Look, India is India's actually unbeaten team at the moment, right? And South Africa is the second qualifier. Australia is the third one. I am guessing who will be the fourth qualifier, because India is going to play with fourth, right? So that actually depends. Yeah, that's the problem. If it's a New Zealand, then India has a better chance to win the final. But if it's a Pakistan, this is very unpredictable. We don't know what will happen. Anything can happen, right? So, oh man, this was an experience one in a lifetime. Yeah. So, Emmanuel, are you watching cricket as well?
No, I don't watch. I only watch like sometimes basketball, but yeah.
Okay. So we are talking about the last game. So what happens at the Australian team? They are losing all the wickets. And one point I realized there's a 99 runs for 7 wickets. So I thought that Australia is going to lose against Afghanistan. And Glenn Maxwell is there. There's a drop catch. I was very frustrated, went to sleep. The morning I found that actually Glenn Maxwell won the team. I mean, he got a muscle spasm. Here's the problem. He got a muscle spasm. He couldn't walk. So he refused to take the runner. He just hit 4 and 6. And he's everywhere. Yet everyone is supporting Afghanistan. Even Tendulkar is there, right? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And they're saying that Afghanistan played really well. And what Glenn Maxwell did is completely exceptional and is a new history in the cricket world. So you should not take that thing into account. That's all right. Thank you. My pleasure. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Emmanuel. I need to go now. I think I'm a bit tired now.
Yeah. It's been more than 3 hours, I think.
Yeah. See you next week, and good night. Thank you. Okay.
Good night.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.